No friends? Solodark's got your back. What is Solodark? Well, today we're going to go over prep, beginning it, and how to kind of roleplay by yourself. We've decided that it's like the Swedish Chef for Muppets. You'll see what we're talking about. So first off, I wanted to showcase my journal. I do highly recommend everybody gets a journal to do this. I was going to do it digitally for this, but I wanted you to see how I prep my stuff. Over here, you can see I already write on my dry erase table all of the time. But also, this is an old Stranger Things book that I just stickered the hell out of. JRW they make these little trays that I use all the time. This is from Print Inkling, because I love beholders. Bugs Not Drugs, because I have a tarantula or two. Gothsconsin, a little bit of a goth at heart. Breachers is written on it. July was the start date. The stream book, I got the Playboy Kobold here at the bottom. Right? And then on the back of it, I did some things that are more like my favorite drinks in Milwaukee. Stenny's is a local place that we go eat at all the time. Three Floyds is one of my favorite breweries. Bones Coffee, obviously, Caffeine Club. That's paying homage to the Stranger Things, but this is from Smuggler's Coffee. And then ZF makes these cool little lightsaber titanium toothpicks. So probably can't see it there, but you can definitely see it here. And these are those things that these are just things I like to travel with. They make me happy. So that's what I put in the book. My journal is just full of things that make me happy for this game. I think that's how you make a journal for your game. With that said, it's important to say how you lay out. And before we dive into doing Shadowdark and prepping for Solodark, I want to showcase how I prep my books. I think this is very important before we even get into how to play Solodark. So I believe wholeheartedly is you need table of contents. I usually give myself 3 pages. You can see I got one here, another, and this is, you're only gonna see 1 page at a time, but I got another one here, and then we get into what I call my canon pages. When I make things up that become canon in the game, I write them on here, like your head canon. And then I stamped all of the pages so that in the table of contents I can put numbers. I got this really cheap. It's just one of these here. And we got this on, it's just a Costco number puncher. Like you just stamp. Take some time, watch a show, stamp it out, you're good to go. But it works really good, and I'm happy with the concept of being able to stamp all of my numbers in the corner, because then when I do the table of contents, I have numbers. That's the biggest thing I say for setting up your journal, is do that. Watch a show, watch this stream, stamp your pages out. Who cares if they smear? It gives character. And then I do what is called a 2-page spread. The only thing you're gonna need to see here is this 1-page spread, this 1-page one right here. And this is where I put all my notes. On the other one, I do a combat log. For things that are like 5e, you'll notice I just put name, hit point, AC, attack, damage, and I even changed my stats. I did full stat right out here, did full stat right out here. And I was like, I don't like this. So when I switched over to do our game, I switched it to just putting letters, because it's way easier to do it this way. And I'm just gonna put the pluses and minuses there as we play the game. You guys won't see this. I will, or maybe I'll show it off some. And then on this side, I do all my notes. I'm a big fan of margins. If you look through your favorite RPGs, margins are where all of the notes to the GM or ideas for character creation or cool ways to use monsters hide in the margins. I'm going to be doing some like big time play with margins for Breachers as they come out, because I want all the GM secrets to be something you click and they turn on in the margins. Otherwise they're off, so your players don't learn anything they shouldn't actually know. And you can see this in numerous books where people use margins a lot. I see them a lot more in the large sized ones than I do in these A5s, but they still exist in A5 as well. So for our book here, we're going to be using this. So I have put Solodark notes here. And what these Solodark notes are going to be for is so that I can keep track of page numbers for where things are important. You can already see I put some things here. The first one here is on page 1. We'll get into this, but this has to do with how light works. You cancel out light every 10 rounds. And then that on a natural 20, we would gain a luck point. In my game, they're called breacher points because we're using our new rule for breacher points. It lets you do a little bit more with them than just reroll. I've always felt like when you have advantage and disadvantage, being able to re-roll because you have inspiration already feels like you're doing that with advantage and disadvantage. So I want you to be able to sway your numbers a little more by rolling a d6 and adding it to it instead. But we'll get into that if our character makes it that far, and you'll know why. Earlier today we made our character and his stats are he's a one-trick pony, but this pony is high in intelligence and isn't a caster. We'll see what happens. And then on this side, I'm gonna write down tables that I use, because when doing solo play, you're gonna use a lot of tables. There's an oracle, which we will showcase when we start rolling our stuff out. And then Lost in Wrath is what I'm doing, because this is based around our Monday game. I have a little bit of a head start on this, because Monday, my group has stolen things from these other breachers inside these gigantic walls that divide up a city, like city-state. We're going to be using that pretty frequently, and I wanted to showcase that the best I could. We're going to be playing in the Verdanta walls. I'm using alchemy for my VTT. You could use whatever you want, but I like the visual aspects of alchemy. So we know where we're going to be starting, and that means that I should probably put on here the name of this place. So I'm going to write down that we are starting in the Verdanta walls. Verdantia walls. And then in my canon, I know they're called the Green Walls because this whole inside of this place is like a large forest. So I'm going to go over to canon. And this is all prep to start what we're doing. So Verdantia walls are known as the Green. Do you want the green walls? The green halls? The green veins? I like the green halls. I like that. The green halls. Colors are always good for naming stuff. And I know my naming convention is going to stay around this style of naming because I want things simple so that more complex names when I use them are memorized. All right? So yeah, kind of like a work in progress. That's very good. We are recording this live. You can go back and watch the live show. There'll be more at the tail end of this when we talk about what we're going to do next. But for the people who are watching this recording, leave comments down below. Do you have a way you name things? We're going to be rolling on a lot of tables here, and I felt like having some core ideas together was great. Speaking of which, you want a list of the things that you're going to bring. I have my books out that I'm going to bring with me. Right now, this is what I have. And I also have PDFs up for you to see. I have Nave to help me with random generation. I'm a big fan of Nave. And you're going to see when we look in Solodark, she references this as well. Obviously, I have my large A5 core copy of Shadowdark. I have the GM screen. I don't know how much I'm going to use a GM screen. I'll be honest with you. Even as a professional GM, I like being able to stand and move things and reach things, but I will say I do appreciate the low profile, and it's made, you can probably hear it, out of chipboard, right? Out of chipboard. So it's got a good size to it. It's got all the notes on the back of it as well. So I have this out just in case I'm going to use it. Not 100% on that. And then at hand, although I'm not using them, but it may happen, I do have the rest of my Shadowdark stuff here, but none of these characters are classes in here. We're actually using a custom ancestry called a Golem, and we're using a custom class called the Dungeon Chef, and we are playing in a setting, or my setting, of Breachers. It is kind of an interesting set piece. I don't want to give away too much because I don't want the secrets to be ruined, but I can show you what it is before we actually dive into our prep for Solodark. So over here, you can see in Mem, my setup. I use Mem because you can do memory connections, because I'm working on firearms, how Breacher secrets work, and then I also have D&D, and that's Delicious and Dungeon, because I'm referencing that for some stuff. And then I have my Shadowdark classes, and it lets me side-by-side these. When I made the Cooks and Crawlers, that's what a book was going to be called. I don't know now. But you can see it has my pillars that I want, and then it has my Dungeon Chef, We already rolled our talents this afternoon. This character class is totally done. And this would be considered like the third play test for it. You can also see breachers, and this is a good idea of the breachers and what it is, but I'm going to just go down to the bullet points to get everyone on the same headspace that I'm in for what we're going to prepare. So Zatatal is the Walls of Secrets. That's what it's known as. If you've seen Maze Runner, they are these mile-high, cloud-touching walls, and inside of each wall they are different. Now, the inspiration for me for this was, well, Maze Runner's concept, but also Attack on Titan. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. But it's about feeling the pulse of Zatatal, what's going on. It's captivating, it's medieval with new industry slapped on top, unveiling the setting, intellect and intrigue, breachers and battles, a tapestry of secrets, and then joining the story because we're going to be doing some actual play. And a breacher is what is in Shadowdark a crawler, except you're part of a guild. That's all you need to know for us to start this today. So let's look over at Acrobat and take a look at Solodark. We did a video earlier. It's probably gonna be at the end, or maybe it'll be in a card. We looked through this once before. You're gonna see some purple highlighting. I do love the way that their A5 books are put together. I'm a big fan of Shadowdark in general. But what I really liked about all of these books that they have put together is this. You have everyone gets trade dress, everyone gets their credits for what they do. They don't forget. We're right into solo gameplay. For those that are watching this, if you've never done solo gameplay, I would hearken back to these ideas as a kid. Playing with your toys and mock battles, playing solo video games where you felt like you were the character. If you remember the Lone Wolf series, I think that's a really good reference for a starting point. There are new ones like Mistborn. And then if you're looking at like choose your own adventure stuff, even the Telltale games that have come out, that's a really good representation of this as well. So those are the things I would say you want to look at and keep in the back of your head when you sit down to do a solo gameplay. There are numerous solo gameplay things that you can use, but no matter what game you do for solo play, there's some form of an oracle. Basically, you ask it a question when you don't know what would be there, and you need an answer. You don't want to ask more than, I say, 1 to 3 times in a scene. I think Kelsey says something very similar. There's a 16-page PDF. We're already on page 4. I'm pretty sure at Gen Con, or as of this Monday, they're getting shipped out in July. But we have that. We have prompts. We have tables. Everything in here is hyperlinked. And then here's the modified rules. They call this out right away. Because if you're used to playing this game, this has different rules for it. So there's group initiative instead of individual initiative. It's to keep it faster for you. At least I think that's the reason behind it. But they talk about choosing one character in case you have 2 to 3 to 4, or maybe a whole party of 5. Today we have 1, but there are 2 other breachers that are part of this party. We have a human lancer, paying homage to Dragonbane, or not Dragonbane, I'm sorry, to Final Fantasy's Dragoons. And then we also have our elven thief, because you gotta have someone to deal with traps. And then the dungeon chef can kind of heal people a little bit. But you'll notice the group initiative is different. You also know if it's in chaos mode that you reroll initiatives. And in the core book, there's other modes of play, from like Gauntlet to other things. And then on all of this, you have light sources last 10 rounds. In traditional Shadowdark, they're 1 physical hour. I like the 10-round concept, but I may also add a 30-minute timer for myself, because as I'm streaming, I'm not going to look at the time, and I think it'd be cool to have an alarm go off, and I now know, shit, my torch burned out. What do I do? So if it happens in combat, things like that, you know. And then luck, like I spoke about earlier, in breachers, you start with a D4 breacher points. In this one, we'll be starting with a D4 plus 1, because everyone starts with 1 luck, aka 1 breacher point for us. That's it. Those are the rule changes. It's pretty simple. You make your character. We did that in the previous video. We talk about Fortune's favor, which is everybody begins with a luck token. I don't have tokens out, But we could do something to physically simulate stuff. What would I want to do? I actually think I want to do it at the top of the page. I think I would rather just do this and have us have markers up here so we can mark our breacher tokens, right? I have a pencil nearby. We can use this to mark and erase as needed. So this will be a pretty easy answer to what we're doing, instead of putting coins out for today's sample. You'll see she talks about jumping in. You can continue to a pre-written dungeon and use the Oracle to help decide your character's choices. I've decided I already know where we're starting. I have a really cool map from Dyson's logos. I'm going to show you that right now. This is the one that we're going to be using today. I'm a big fan of this, and it's a tower. And since we are at the bottom of the wall and we're currently trying to find a way out, I think we started on level 2 and then we got tossed down and we fell through this tower. Or maybe we found the tower. I think maybe we found the tower and we're looking for a way out because we're split for our parties. And the closest on the two sides of walls, we are closer to the kingdom of Redontus than we are from Astralane, which is where our breacher is from. Since I know that, I know our map, we just gotta do some naming and get some ideas together and we're kind of ready to go. If you're interested in Solodark, you'll notice that down below in this video, there's a link. Solodark is free. This 16-page PDF costs zilch, nada, nothing. And I think that's a really cool way to get people playing it by themselves. And if you want, there's even a Shadowdark get started one, which I think that PDF is free as well. Otherwise, I can't recommend enough to pick up the PDF. It's, I believe, over 300 pages. Let's look, shall we? It's 335 pages for 29 bucks. The whole thing is hyperlinked inside and out. And it is maybe one of the best teach GMs how to GM books I've seen in a long time. So let's get started. We know our character is a dungeon chef. We know that we were attacked along with our other 2 breachers. And those 2 are gone. We don't know where they are. We have woken up by ourselves, which means